Dear learners, welcome to the MOOC on Education for Inclusive Society. This is Module 5 and Video 3. In this video, we will focus on teaching strategies for children with learning disabilities. This session will help you understand how thoughtful, inclusive teaching approaches can address diverse learning needs and empower every child to succeed. As you engage with this video, reflect on the role of teachers in creating supportive classrooms that value differences and promote equity. We encourage you to learn with empathy, curiosity, and a commitment to inclusive educational practices, wishing you a meaningful and enriching learning experience. So, understanding teaching strategies for children with learning disabilities is essential to ensure equitable and inclusive education. Children with learning disabilities learn differently, not less, and require instructional approaches that address their specific learning needs. Awareness of appropriate strategies helps teachers adapt content, methods, and assessments, thereby reducing learning barriers and enhancing academic achievement. Such understanding also promotes positive self-esteem, active participation, and meaningful engagement among learners. Moreover, informed teaching practices support early intervention, prevent academic failure, and align with inclusive education principles advocated by NEP 2020, ensuring that every learner is given an equal opportunity to succeed. Now, let's have a recapitulation of the unit where we have discussed about understanding learning disabilities. Before going to the intervention parts, before going to the strategies, let us remind or recall about what is learning disability. So, learning disabilities are neurological differences that affect how a child processes, retains, and express information. So, these are not indicative of intelligence, rather, they reflect unique ways the brain functions. Children with learning disabilities often possess remarkable strengths in creativity, problem solving, and lateral thinking. Common types includes dyslexia, that is the reading difficulties, dysgraphia, which is writing difficulty, dyscalculia, that is mathematical processing issues or mathematical difficulties, and auditory or visual processing disorders. So each child's experience is unique, requiring individualized approaches that recognize their specific needs while celebrating their capabilities. So, understanding that learning disabilities are lifelong conditions helps educators develop sustainable strategies. Early identification and intervention significantly improve outcomes, but it's never too late to implement effective support system, which we are going to discuss, that transform a child's educational journey. So, what are the core principles of inclusive education? First is the individualization. That means to recognize each child's unique learning profile, strength, and challenges, and to create personalized learning pathways that honor their pace and style. Then, the multisensory engagement. Here, to incorporate visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile elements to reinforce learning through multiple channels simultaneously. These are the principles which we can highlight for inclusive teaching. So, individualization is one of them. Another is the multi-sensory engagement. That means to use our all sense organs while teaching or while learning. Again, the third is the positive reinforcement. Focus on effort and progress rather than perfection. celebrate small victories to build confidence and intrinsic motivation. Fourth is the structured flexibility. It should provide consistent routines while remaining adaptable to individual needs and unexpected challenges that may arise. So, these are the four core principles of inclusive teaching. Now, how to create an accessible classroom environment, because these students, those who have learning difficulties, difficulty in any areas like difficulty in writing, difficulty in mathematics, difficulty in speaking, in all cases they should have an accessible classroom environment. They should be provided with a classroom where they can adjust themselves. So how we can provide that accessible classroom environment? So the physical learning space profoundly impacts students with learning disabilities. Thoughtful environment designs reduces distractions and support focus, making learning more accessible for all students. So to have an accessible classroom environment, 3 points we must take into consideration. 3 points. Firstly, the classroom environment should have a visual organization. It should provide sensory consideration. And thirdly, the sitting arrangement for all the children should be flexible. So in visual organization, we can say we should use color-coded systems, clear labels, and visual schedules. Display key information at eye level with simple, consistent formatting. Then if we say about sensory consideration, it means to create quiet zones for focused work, minimize visual cluster and control noise level, provide fidget tools and movement opportunities. Again, we are telling about sitting arrangement. That means the flexible sitting. So the children who have difficulties, they should offer varied sitting options, including standing desk, swivel chairs, floor cushions to accommodate different learning preferences. So the classroom environment should be provided to in such a way that it should be accessible to all kind of learners with different difficulties. Next come, as we are going to talk about the techniques which we will apply while teaching, or the strategies which will apply while teaching the students with learning difficulties. So one among them is the multi-sensory teaching techniques. So multi-sensory instruction is amongst the most powerful approaches for children with learning disabilities. By engaging multiple senses simultaneously, seeing, hearing, touching, and moving, educators create stronger neural pathways that enhance retention and understanding. For reading instruction, for example, combine letter recognition with tactile experience, such as tracing letters in sand, forming them with clay, or writing them in the air with large arm movements. So pair this with phonetic sounds and visual cues. This redundancy ensures that if one pathway is challenging, other provide alternative routes to learning. In the case of mathematics, we can say we can use physical manipulatives like blocks, beads, fraction bars before moving to the abstract symbols. So we should allow children to build short and manipulative objects while verbalizing their thinking. So this concrete to abstract, that means from simple to hard, concrete to abstract progression honors how many children with dyscalculia process numerical concepts. Next come the writing task. The children, those who have writing difficulties. So for writing task, incorporate speech to text technology, graphic organizers, and collaborative storytelling. Let children draw their ideas first, act them out, or discuss them orally before committing words to paper. This reduces the cognitive load and allows focus on one skill at a time. So they should be provided the task like breaking down into complex texts. The task should be break down in different sections. Like first is the identifying goal, then break it into chunks, then sequencing the steps, providing scaffolds, then celebration of their completion. So children with learning disabilities often struggle with executive functioning. You can see from this point, part of our point, how the breakdown of the complex task has been done in different sequences. So if the task given to a children with learning disabilities, if it is breakdown, then they can have a completion celebration. They can complete it, they can complete the task when it is breakdown in small parts very confidently. So that's why it is said that children with learning disabilities often struggle with executive functions, the ability to plan, organize, and complete multiple step tasks. So task breakdown transforms overwhelming assignments into manageable pieces, building confidence and competence. Begin by clearly identifying the end goal with the student. Then work backwards to determine each necessary step. Write this step as a numbered checklist with simple language. Visual timers help children understand how long each step should take, reducing anxiety about their time management. Next come another strategies is the assistive technology solutions. So assistive technology isn't about making things easier. It's about making learning accessible. Just as spectacles enable those with visual impairments to see clearly, assistive technology remove barriers for children with learning disabilities, allowing them to demonstrate their true capabilities. Text-to-speech software helps students with dyslexia access written content independently. Speech-to-text tools enable those with dysgraphia to express their ideas without the physical struggle of handwriting. Calculator apps with visual representation support students with dyscalculia in understanding mathematical relationships. Digital graphic organizers, mind mapping software, and audio recording tools provide scaffolding for organization and memory. These technologies aren't crutches, they are legitimate accommodation that level the playing field, just as a ramp provides access for wheelchair users. So introduce technology gradually, ensuring students understand not just how to use tools, but when they are most helpful. So encourage self-advocacy by teaching children to recognize their needs and select appropriate supports independently. Next comes the reading intervention strategies. If we say about reading intervention, or the techniques which we can provide to the children with reading difficulties are like phonological awareness. It is categorized under 4 categories. One is phonological awareness, another is systematic phonics, fluency development, and comprehension support. So under phonological awareness, we should build sound recognition through rhyming games, syllable clapping, and sound manipulation activities. Use visual cues and hand gestures to reinforce phonemes. If we tell about systematic phonics, here teach letter sound relationships explicitly and sequentially. Use color coding to highlight patterns. Provide ample practice with decodable text before introducing irregular words. Fluency development. Here we can implement repeated reading with familiar texts. Model fluent reading and use eco-reading techniques. Celebrate improvements in speed and expression without pressuring perfection. And fourth is the comprehension support. So pre-teach vocabulary with visual supports. Use graphic organizers to map story elements. Ask predictive questions and encourage personal connections to text. Next come for the mathematical difficulty, supporting mathematical learning. So mathematics presents unique challenges for children with dyscalculia or processing difficulties. Abstract symbols and multi-step procedures can feel overwhelming, but concrete visual approaches build genuine understanding rather than rote memorization. always begin, see these are the steps which is provided here, like always begin with concrete manipulatives. Let children play physically group objects when learning addition. Separate them from subtraction. Create arrays for multiplication and divide sets fairly for division. So this tangible experience creates mental methods that support later abstract thinking. For visual representation, in mathematics we are telling about, for visual representation, bridge concrete and abstract. Number lines, 10 frames and area models help children visualize mathematical relationships. Color coding, such as highlighting place values, reduce confusion and provides consistent reference points. Verbalization strengthens understanding. Encourage students to explain their thinking aloud, even if their method differs from standard algorithms. Alternative struggles that make sense to the child are more valuable than memorized procedures they don't understand. Provide extra time for processing and celebrate multiple solution paths. Next come the writing development. So, what are the writing development techniques we can use for the children with learning difficulties? So here you can see there are 3 steps it has been given, like pre-writing, drafting and revising. You can see from the diagram here. So how to build confidence among those writers who have writing difficulties. So writing is cognitively demanding, requiring simultaneous attention to ideas, organization, spelling, grammar and handwriting. For children with dysgraphia or language processing difficulties, this multitasking can be paralyzing. It is very difficult for them. So separate the thinking from the mechanics. Use graphic organizers for brainstorming and planning. Allow oral composition before writing. Provide sentence starters and word banks. Accept speech to text or typing as legitimate alternatives to understanding. So focus on one skill at a time. That means they don't have to do many things at a single time. We should focus, for the children with writing difficulties, we should focus on one skill at a time. During idea generation, ignore spelling and grammar. During editing, address only 1 or 2 specific elements. Use visual editing checklist with simple icons so students can self-assess independently. Now again comes the strategy for memory and organization, because these children have problem with their memory. The children those who have difficulty learning disabilities. So they have a problem with organization and memory. So for memory and organization, there are also strategies that is divided under 4 categories. First is chunking information. Break information into smaller, meaningful groups. Teach phone number or as 3-digit chunks rather than 10 separate digits. Group vocabulary by themes or visual association. Then mnemonics and rhymes. So create memorable acronyms, songs or rhymes for difficult sequence. The more creative and personally meaningful, the better the retention. Then spaced retention. Review material at increasing intervals rather than cramming. Brief, frequent practice sessions and more effective than lengthy, infrequent ones. Last is the visual memory aids. Use color coding, illustrations and mind maps. Encourage students to visual concepts as mental pictures or stories that connect new information to prior knowledge. Again, you see, we are telling about strategies. What are the strategies or what are the techniques we can use to develop those children? But they also have some behavior and they also need behavior and emotional support. They have some emotional distress. You can see from this part of the presentation, there are some signs of emotional distress because they have some disabilities. They feel themselves emotionally very weak. So they have some distress. So these are some of the signs through which you can identify they have emotional distress, like avoidance of specific task, excessive frustration or tearfulness, physical complaints before academic work, disruptive behavior during challenging activities, withdrawal or isolation, and negative self-talk. So these are some of the emotional distress. So they need behavioral and emotional support. So learning disabilities often coexist with emotional challenges. Repeated academic struggles can erode self-esteem, trigger anxiety, and lead to avoidance behavior. So, understanding the emotional landscape is very crucial as addressing academic needs. Many children developed a learned helplessness mindset often experiencing consistent difficulty despite genuine effort. They may believe they are not intelligent. Rather, they understand their brain process informing differently. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, reducing effort and engagement. We should foster a growth mindset by praising efforts, strategies, and persistence rather than innate ability. Explicitly teach that the brain is malleable, that practice and new strategies create new neural pathways. Share stories of successful individuals with learning disabilities to provide hope and role model. Recognize that challenging behavior often stems from frustration, overwhelm, or fear of failure. Before addressing behavior positively, ask, is this task accessible? Does the child have the skills needed? What support is missing? Adjust the task or provide additional scaffolding before implementing consequences. Build strong, trusting relationships where children feel safe to struggle and ask for help. There is also a need for collaborative goal setting. Involving children in setting their own learning goals transform them from passive recipients of instruction to active participation in their education. So, this autonomy builds motivation, self awareness, and metacognitive skills essential for lifelong learning. Use child friendly language to explain current performance levels and areas for growth. Ask, what would you like to get better at? Help them articulate specific achievable goals rather than vague aspirations. I want to read chapters book independently is more concrete than I want to be good at reading. Break large goals into smaller milestones with visual progress tracking. A thermometer chart showing incremental progress, a chain where each link represents mastery of one skill, or a mountain with checkpoints creates tangible evidence of growth. Celebrate each milestone genuinely, reinforcing that progress, not perfection, is the objective. Regularly review goals together, adjusting them as needed. Teach children to recognize their own growth by comparing current work to the previous efforts. So, this self reflection develops metacognition and helps students become independent learners who can advocate for their needs and monitor their progress. There are also differentiated assessment methods like portfolio assessment, oral demonstration, project-based assessment, and adaptive techniques, which are also given here as a part of techniques or different methods we can use for assessment of children with learning difficulties. Again, building executive function skill, that means supporting self-regulation and organization. Executive function encompasses planning, organization, time management, impulse control, and flexible thinking. Many children with learning disabilities struggle with these invisible skills that profoundly impact academic success and daily functioning. Externalize executive function through visual supports. Use checklists for multiple step routine, visual schedules for daily transitions, and timers to make time visible and concrete. Model thinking aloud. First, I need to gather my materials. Let me check my list to make sure I have everything. So, teach planning explicitly. Before beginning tasks, guide students through what am I supposed to do? What materials do I need? What's my first step? How will I know when I am finished? So, this metacognitive rehearsal builds habits of mind that eventually become internalized. Create organizational system together. Color-coded folders, label bins, designated spaces for materials, consistency in key. The same system used daily become automatic, reducing cognitive load. Parenting with family is also very important. Families are children's first and most enduring teachers. So, effective partnership between educators and families create consistency, reinforce strategies, and provide holistic support that extends beyond the classroom walls. For parenting with families, there are some points highlighted here, like regular positive communication is required, home strategy training is required, listening and learning is very much important, and resource sharing, that means to connect families with support groups, community resources, and educational information about learning disabilities. So these are some of the points highlighted to parenting with families, that means how it will help linking all the societal needs with the families, so that the children with learning difficulties can get support from as in a holistic way. Peer support and social skill is also very important. So, social challenges often accompany learning disabilities. Difficulties with communication, reading social cues, or processing information quickly can impact friendship and peer interaction. International social skill instruction and inclusive classroom culture make tremendous differences. To foster a classroom community where differences are valued and accommodations are normalized, when all students sometimes use fidgets, sit on stability bales, or receive extra times, these supports become unremarkable rather than stigmatizing. So, celebrate diverse strengths through activities highlighting varied talents, artistic, musical, aesthetic, organization, or interpersonal, demonstrating that everyone has a unique gift to contribute. Self-advocacy development is also very important, where understanding one's learning profile is highlighted, knowing available accommodation is highlighted, communicating needs effectively is also highlighted. Some of the points here also highlighted, you can see from this part of your video, like participating in educational planning, how it will help in self-advocacy development. Research support approaches is also one of the techniques or strategies that can be adopted, individualized strategies, which is very essential. Certain structured intervention programs has demonstrated effective through rigorous research. So these are some of the research techniques that are used for reading difficulties, for mathematical difficulties, for writing intervention programs. So through research also, this kind of disabilities or difficulties can also be treated. In conclusion, I'd like to say that teaching children with learning disabilities is amongst the most challenging and rewarding work in education. It requires patience, creativity, continuous learning, and unwavering belief in every child's potential. The strategies outlined in this guide provide a foundation, but your genuine care and commitment bring them to life. Remember that progress isn't linear. There will be breakthrough moments and frustrating plates also. Celebrate the small victories. The first independently read sentence, the maths problem solved with new strategies, the paragraph written with greater confidence. These moments matter profoundly to children who have experienced repeated struggle. Your role extends for beyond academic instruction. You are building resilience, fostering self-worth, and demonstrating that challenges can be overcome with appropriate support and determination. The child struggling with reading today may become tomorrow's engineer, artist, or entrepreneur, not despite their learning disabilities, but having developed extraordinary perseverance, creative problem solving, and empathy through navigating their unique learning journey. So stay curious, collaborative, and compassionate. Seek ongoing professional development. Connect with colleagues and never hesitate to ask for support. Together, we can create educational environment where every child, regardless of how their brain process information, experience the joy of learning and the confidence to pursue their dream. Your dedication makes this possible. Thank you for the essential work you do every day. Thank you.